Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving to Texas team here in Houston, Texas. I am excited for another episode of the Real Advice podcast. If you don't know my guest this week, you're probably living under a rock and you're not on social media because she is all over Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Maybe it's just because we're friends and I see her content all the time, but it's awesome. One of the things I love is it's like educational, it's fun. I think it's very authentic. And I'm very excited to dig in with our guest this week, the Dayton real estate darling, Heather Haase. What's going on? How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Just a little tired. It's Monday. It's noon on a Monday. Ready for some energy and stuff like that and get the week started.
All right. Well, hopefully we can keep the energy today. I'm excited to dig in with you. We were just talking before we started shooting this podcast, realized we hadn't met in person and we're going to meet in person coming up here soon. So I'm excited for that. But Heather, for those that may not know you, who are you and how did you get into real estate?
Oh man. Well, my name is Heather Haase. You can also call me Sunshine. Most people will remember me as Sunshine before they remember me as Heather. I live here in Dayton, Ohio. I've lived here for about a little over 7 years now, and I got into real estate 7 years ago this May. So I'm officially licensed 7 years in May. I got started, and it's like it's one of those stories that all realtors kind of like make fun of at first, like because they're like, "Oh, HGTV." I got started because I watched way too much HGTV. And so Property Brothers was my show. Like that's what I watched all the time. And so my mom one day was like, "I bet you could do that." And at that time we were living in Tennessee. And I was like, "You know what? Let me look into it. I bet I could do this." And so, but I did 2 months of research before I even thought about it.
Yeah.
And I got to learn everything about the job. I knew what to expect and everything like that. I interviewed with, people that I knew were realtors and everything. And I knew I was moving back to Ohio. So I ended up coming up here, staying with a friend. And at that time, we didn't have online real estate school. So we had to do everything in person, which I prefer it that way, no matter what. And so we had to do everything in person. And I went for the school. Halfway between, my car was hit by a drunk driver. Luckily, I was not in it. But I ended up having to take a break for a bit. But during that break, I actually got to meet the Property Brothers and sit down and talk to them and stuff like that. Just like I went back to Tennessee to see my daughter and stuff, and they just happened to be in Nashville that week. And I'm like, "Hey, let's go see them and see what goes on." And it wasn't heavily promoted. So they like I literally have video of us just sitting there like we're having lunch together, and it was super cool.
That is hilarious.
Right?
I also think that it's funny that the HGTV thing, because yes, like, we always say like, this isn't HGTV, like you shouldn't get into the business because you watch it and blah, 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 whatever. I would say though, 7 years into the business, that may have been how you got into it, but I know, you teach other agents, you speak on public stages and you've really embraced it. So you're no longer, I feel like the HGTV person. You're like a full-on realtor. Let's be real
Yeah.
here. So
And like I feel like, even with the HGTV thing, I think if you're smart about it, like half of it's like for show and stuff like
yeah.
that. But there's elements of truth to it. Like,
For sure.
it took me a bit, but because I would watch all those shows, now I have all these clients that watch these shows and I know how to relate to them. So
That is true. That is true. So I want to dig into first a little bit about like I know you're very involved in the association. I know you're involved with the young professional networks, both locally and nationally, and things like that. And so, what I would like for you to do is give some advice as to why people should get involved with their local association. And then, obviously, once you do that, you kind of get involved on the state level and the national level and stuff like that. But like, why should I go get involved with the Houston Association of Realtors?
I think it's really so it really depends on your association because I've definitely talked to some people who like their local association just didn't do a lot of stuff, didn't really get them connected to people and stuff like that. So maybe they had to go to the state or national
Okay.
anyway. But a lot of times it's just getting connected with other realtors in your area to learn from. And that's like initially how I started off was I am brand new to the area. I am looking for business. I want to help people show homes. I want to get coached and stuff like that. And so that's the reason I wanted to go in, especially as a new agent. And then it just grew and grew and grew from there. And now a lot of it is because I want to be involved in these issues that are going on like in my state and stuff like that. Like we have our realtors at the rotunda this week, which is a lot like your realtor day that you guys just had in Texas.
Yeah.
But like
Yours sounds a lot more fun though. Ours is just like a realtor day at the Capitol. Yours is realtor at the rotunda, you said?
yeah, realtors at the rotunda, which is the name of our capital.
That sounds way more fun. It's probably the same, stuff happening throughout the
Yeah.
day, but yours just sounds, alliterations always make things sound way more exciting. Anyway, sorry, continue.
But so it's kind of nice to kind of be in the know about like all these issues that are going on because there's so many people that don't know.
Yeah,
They don't know that we're constantly on the chopping block for like taxes. They don't know like 1031 exchanges are constantly getting threatened.
yeah,
They don't know like even during the pandemic, and this is probably one of our best examples, all our neighbors like surrounding the state, like Michigan and Pennsylvania, they had to shut
yeah,
down work
yeah.
for
A very long
forever.
time.
And because of our connections here in Ohio, like we were able to remain essential employees and still
Yeah,
stay in business and stuff. So, but not only that, like, especially like as I got further and further up the line in volunteering and getting to know people from all across the US and the world, I got to understand how real estate was done in other markets and become
for
a
sure.
little bit more connected. Plus, have referral partners too that
Yeah,
I actually do know and trust, and it's
yeah.
not like a weird program or something.
Yeah, no, I think those were 2 big things for me when I got involved locally here in Houston was the private property rights, right?
Mhm.
And getting involved and things like that. And understanding kind of where money, and, the political the tree pack, like our pack,
Yeah,
right? Like where money went to and why it was important to give to that. And then, yeah, I mean, just being connected, I think was huge, right? And just understanding especially during the pandemic. I mean, we were within 2 weeks named essential here, and I think it's because our association is such a strong association compared to others, and well connected with the government and stuff like that. So politics aside, right, and political
yeah,
parties aside, just protecting private property rights, I think is so huge, and fully understanding that is important. So, and making a bunch of friends and referral partners is great.
yeah.
So,
And even locally, like, it's super funny. Like, a lot of people are like, why would you want to be friends with realtors locally? I'm like, one, because they're cool. And I'm like, two, two, kind of understanding like what people are doing in my market. I'm
yeah,
like, but three, sometimes people like, especially in a place like Houston, like Dayton's a bad example because we're small, but I still get referrals from local people, like
yeah,
local realtors. I'll get one, maybe two a year where they're just like, hey, I have too much business. Do you mind like referring? Or, hey, I don't want to work this part
yeah.
of the
That side of
city.
town, or yeah, too far of a
Yeah. So
drive. Yeah.
it helps, like, I know like Katy, Texas is far from Galveston. Like, so if you guys
Yes.
know it, these are the only places I can remember, like the
Yeah, I appreciate
suburbs
it.
in Houston.
Yeah.
So
No, I like it though. Any Houstonians listening are like, "Oh, she knows her stuff," So,
yeah.
I like it, I like it. No, I mean, that's something that's big. We definitely have seen that as well, right? Because as you said, Houston
Mhm.
is a very large city, but I think that one thing that I saw is like something that I didn't realize would happen was, like, getting these connections locally was also great because then, if we were in a multiple offer situation and we both served on the YPN board, or, we both served on professional development or whatever it was like, "Oh, well, I know Katie and her team, like, take this seriously, right? I
Yeah.
know it's gonna be a smoother transaction. I know that, we're gonna have open lines of communication." Because I think that's when things break down, right? Is like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to negotiate with you and you won't pick up your phone, like, to at least have a conversation. That's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that's always whenever I see an offer come over on one of our listings, especially in a multiple offer situation, it's someone that I've served with on a board or a committee. I'm like, oh, cool, glad to see Heather's name on this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's just so many different benefits to it. And if it's not your thing, like, that's okay. Maybe get involved in another way. Like,
Yeah.
maybe whether it's with your local brokerage or maybe it's something that you want to like volunteer at your local chamber of commerce or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, just do something. So,
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll switch gears a little bit. I just know that you're super involved in, local, state, national levels, and I think that it's very important. So rather than me just sit here and talk about it, I always love hearing other people's points of views and
yeah.
why they got involved in their local and boards and things like that. So switching gears, want to talk a little bit about social media. That's obviously how we kind of met through different Facebook groups and Instagram and TikTok and all the things. And so, one thing that always surprises me is there's still a large subset of people that don't want to be on social media, right? And don't want to promote their business on social media or don't want to make connections on social.
Yeah.
And so, what advice would you give to them, right? To be more involved and create those relationships. Like I'm not even saying go garner business, right? I'm saying
Yeah.
what's the advice in order to create those relationships and um yeah, to create those relationships.
So I go around the country and I teach on
Yeah.
social media and stuff like that. And I tell like one of the first things, and I always get asked almost every single class, do I have to be on it? I'm like, well, that's a complicated question. And I'm like, you really got to break it down. I'm like, do you essentially at the end of the day have to be on it? No, but does it help? Is it free marketing? Like, is it free like connections with people? Yeah. So I'm like, so let's figure out what social media network is best for you and go from there. And I think everybody feels they have to be on everything. And
Yeah.
then they get a sigh of relief when I'm like, guess what? You don't have to be on everything. Like, I'm not on LinkedIn. I am definitely not on Twitter. Every time I try to tweet, I look like a twat, I say. So um but like, and even still like my top networks are like Facebook and TikTok, and then I have Instagram because Instagram's just easy to use
Yeah.
along with Facebook. So I'm always like, you need to kind of like look to see where your friends might be, because
Yep.
I have a very interesting subset of friends. Like I know a lot of my older generation of friends, they're going to be on Facebook. I know a lot of my younger generation, they're on Instagram. So much so, like when we finally started going back to like networking on the national level, and before digital business cards really started to break through, people were just sharing their Instagram QR codes. That's how we
Yeah.
shared our information instead of regular business cards. And it was very enlightening at that point.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest things is don't get overwhelmed with all the social media networks. Just pick one and work at that. And then I'm like, and just be yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, don't be a jerk or anything like that, but be yourself and put things on there. You got to think of your life as content at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
don't make yourself miserable by like forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to. So like
Yeah.
I just did a series called Falling in Love with Dayton. It ended up being like mostly about food. And guess what? I really like food. Um, if I had done it about like golf courses, I would have been miserable. And if I had done it about like dog patios, would I have been super happy? Yes, but my dog has anxiety and I wouldn't have been able to take my dog out anywhere. So I would have been miserable again. Like,
Yeah.
so, and I'm like, try to kind of find like things that you like to do and just put it out there.
Yeah.
And we always talk about the real estate ghosts or like social media ghosts and stuff like that. People are watching you. Like, even
Yeah.
if you don't think, even if they're not liking, commenting, reacting, I go to a lot of these events and people are like, I love that video. And I'm like, I don't remember you ever saying like anything, but they're
Anything.
like
Yeah.
all the time.
Well, and that's even like real estate agents. You have to think like the average consumer isn't commenting on your video being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
great workout. I'm going to call you when I'm ready to sell my house." Like they're just
Right.
looking at it, seeing it, maybe liking it here and there. But what I found is when I go into a listing appointment or I meet with a buyer or whatever, that may be, they're referencing videos that I posted 3 months, 6 months, 12 months ago. And I'm like, I posted that a very long time ago. And they're like, well, we did this because you said this in this video and blah, 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 So,
Yeah. And
um,
that's a great point too. Like it's a great education tool. Like I don't know about you, but I feel like especially the past 2 years with the surgence of like TikTok, Reel, Shorts and stuff like that, all of my buyers and sellers are coming to me very educated.
yeah,
Like
for better
even
or
if
worse.
for better or worse, yeah, but like for the most part they're like, "Oh yeah, we know how the market is."
Yeah.
Like, we know how we're fully prepared. We're fully mentally prepared. And it's kind of beautiful and amazing.
I say that just because I mean, I know you see it on TikTok, the people that are like the experts in everything on TikTok. Luckily, most of them are children with no username and not actually real people. But TikTok is a wild place, is all I've got to add to that.
Oh, I love TikTok so much. It's a great place for information, but I also put out there all the time and I'll comment on some realtors videos because like sometimes I'm scrolling through and I'm like, maybe you need to put like a little bit of a disclaimer that this is only for your city or
Yeah.
your area. I'm like, because this could be bad if it got out. Like there was one I saw a couple like a year ago and she talked about how like earnest money isn't really a real thing and you'll always get it back. And I'm just like, "Oh gosh, no, not here." Like I'm like and I think she was in a very kind of like rural area
Yeah.
and I'm like, "That may work there." I'm like, "But in here in Ohio, you will get sued." Like
Yeah.
you will
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
sued.
Yeah.
I'm
There are
like, "So,
ways you can get it back, but that's
yeah."
not a promised thing. Um, I would agree with the original point as we dive down a rabbit hole together. I would agree with the original point of like you don't have to be on every platform. I also think that people will see, say following you on TikTok and seeing how often you're posting and
Mhm.
engagement and things like that. And it's like you've got to start somewhere. And I always tell people, saying you're going to start today and post every single day for 6 months, like is probably not going to happen. So pick the one thing you can do every single week, do that, on a regular
Yeah,
basis, and then start layering in more stuff, right? And layering in more educational stuff, more stuff that you enjoy, right? So whether that's dogs or food or golf or whatever, start layering that in. And then you'll see that you're posting on a way more regular basis. So
yeah.
it's definitely a journey for sure.
Consistency is key, like, in anything we do in life, like, whether
Yeah.
you're trying to lose weight or go door knocking or something, just being consistent.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Um, I would agree with that completely. What advice would you give to someone on being authentic, right? Because you touched on it a little bit, right? Like I think that finding what you enjoy and what's true to you is important, right? And that what you enjoy posting about and enjoy like curating, right? But like, I think that people are always like, oh, well, I'm a very private person. Oh, I'm trying to think of other limiting beliefs and things people say to me. Like, I'm a private person.
No one
I don't no
cares,
one cares.
I don't look good on camera, I don't sound good on camera, I've heard it all, like, I
Yeah.
have heard
So
every
So how would you advise someone to be more authentic and to be comfortable in sharing some stuff about them?
You have to start somewhere. We actually just had like a local news anchor come in to our women's council and kind of teach about confidence on camera. And he's like, you'll never get confidence until you actually start doing it. Like, and so that's one of the things. You got to just start doing it and doing it in some sort of way. And if you want to keep it strictly business, maybe that's where you just start. You start
Yeah.
with just strictly business kind of stuff and then maybe you can start adding in a little bit more of the personal kind of stuff. And when we say personal, I'm not going to say like, I'm going to tell you about my baby daddy issues or like anything like that. Like, I don't have any baby daddy issues, but that's a great example. I'm just like trying to think of like something
Dramatic
dramatic.
items that yeah.
I like we're talking about like, hey, I like dogs and
Yeah.
cats are like I have a kid like
Yeah.
and maybe that's something you don't want to share in social media
Yeah.
and that's perfectly fine. Like, do what makes you feel best and makes you feel safe. I'm like and maybe I'm a little bit misconstrued because social media has been a part of my life. I've had Facebook since 2005, so that's
Same.
18 years
Yeah.
now,
Oh
and I'm
God, don't
thirty.
can you not can you not do that math? Like, I'm offended by your math right now because the math is mathing the same for me. So please,
Oh,
please stop that. Shit.
but I'm sorry, like, I had that revelation last year, and I can't let it go now, like, I'm like,
Girl, you're
"Man."
killing me. You're killing me. All right, we've got to move on from the math. No, I would agree. You know, I follow and I'm friends with a business owner here in Houston, and they share a ton about their business and the trials and tribulations and just, you know, highs and lows, right? Because I think that we fall into just social media being like a highlight reel, and it's like, man,
Mhm,
Heather's just crushing it. But like, you also share things of like challenges and stuff like that, as does this business. But like, they share their kid, but it's their kid is emoji baby, and whenever they put their kid on social, they toss an emoji on her face, right? Because like,
um,
they don't want to share their
yeah,
family, right, in that way. But like, they do share like, hey, we went to go get, you know, tacos, and emoji baby loved them. And like, one time I was talking to her and she referenced her kid's name, and I was like, who's that? She's like, oh, our daughter. And I was like, oh, okay. I just thought it was emoji baby. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I never knew her name, but like, cool. Like, thanks for that info. Like,
yeah,
so you can share things in way different levels, right? Like, you know, you've got people on there, you know, selling Girl Scout cookies and putting their kids on video. And then you've got people that are, you know, covering up their kids' faces. Then some people who aren't sharing anything. So,
yeah,
I think it's all about level of comfort. So I feel you on that for sure.
for sure, and I mean, yeah, you definitely know now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
aw, congratulations, by the way.
What? Thank you. What advice would you give to a brand new agent just getting started? Because I mean, you've been doing this now for 7 years, so you know you've been through a couple license renewals. You're here to stay, right? What advice would you give to someone if I just got my license? Maybe I just hung it at a brokerage, or I'm looking to hang it at a brokerage. Like,
Mhm.
what worldly advice would you impart on me?
I would say don't so I just had this discussion the other day, and there's like 2 big pieces of advice. One is focus on one thing that really sticks out to you that you think, "I could be good at this." Because when you start, you're gonna get like 20 different ways that you can make money in this business.
Yeah,
Like, and as somebody with ADHD, I wanted to do all 20 of them, and I'm just like, "Yes, let's do them all."
that sounds
Um,
great.
and so I struggled my first year. I was miserable door knocking. I was miserable cold calling and stuff like that. So eventually, like, I sat down, I'm like, with a mentor, and I'm like, what could I be good at? And we came down to first time home buyers. I love to teach, I love
Hmm.
to mentor and stuff. So I started teaming up with a lot of the people in my office that were great big time producers, and I would pay them a referral fee for all their first time home buyers. And I just
I love
became the
it.
darn first time home buyers agent I possibly could. And then eventually I joined a team. And I that kind of leads into my second like piece of business. Is if you are not sure where you're going, you need to have a great mentor or you need to be on a team of some sort and interview with a few different people, like if you can. I don't know
Yeah.
how Texas does it. We have to have a brokerage before we get licensed, picked out. Some states you can get licensed and then pick a brokerage, but like get with a team or get with a great mentorship program. Talk to people who have gone through it and what they need to do it, and just show up. I did professional development for my company, and I've been to 2 different companies where I have been the professional development director, and just there's so many people who complain about not getting anything and not being able to convert leads and stuff, but they weren't getting educated on
Yeah.
how to do stuff, or they would or they would switch to maybe a brokerage where there was a higher split, but no training at all.
Yeah.
And I think we focus so much on the higher splits and stuff like that without focusing on, okay, well, how am I going to make the money kind of thing. So sometimes you might have to do that 55-45 split to start off with if you're able to make like $3,000 a month or something like that,
Yeah.
because
Whatever that looks like. Yeah.
that 55-45 is better than 0,
Zero.
100% of 0. So, really start looking at all the numbers and stuff. So,
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that that's whether it's the team or the brokerage, and being a team leader, right? I'm a little biased there, but like, you know, 100% of zero is still zero, right? Or 85% of zero is still zero. And so that's where, I think that the training is so important. I obviously I think being a part of a team is a great idea, but yeah, I mean, and it's not for everyone, right? Like if you have your path and whatever, like then, go do it. But I think, yeah, it is very easy to get that shiny object syndrome when you
Mhm.
first get your license. They're trying to sell you so many different things and they all sound great. And yeah, just be focused and be consistent. That's super
You do
important.
not have to spend a lot of money in this business. Like, people complain about spending money all the time, and I'm like, "You really don't have to."
Yeah.
Like, on all this marketing kinda stuff. I mean, if you want to, that's fine, like, but I'm always about, like, let's talk about cheaper free ways that you can really make it in this business. So,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. Um, Good deal. All right. I've got a final question for you.
Oh,
Dun dun
okay.
dun. Since you mentioned earlier, this is actually a question we ask everyone, but you mentioned earlier that your Dayton, video series and highlight series turned into just restaurants and food. If it were your last meal on earth, what would you be eating? Doesn't have to be a Dayton thing. It could be like a homemade thing or it could be somewhere else, but what would be your last meal on earth?
I don't know if I could pick a specific meal, but it would definitely be something like, you know what? It's gonna probably be like a smorgasbord of Caribbean food and
Okay.
South American food
Okay.
and Mexican food, like Central American food. Like, I love Latin foods altogether. I should just say
Yeah.
Latin. Smorgasbord of Latin foods. Like, I want some pupusas, I want some nachos, I want some queso, some chips, some guac, some plantains. My mouth is salivating just thinking about this. Like,
I mean, all of that sounds really good, and I'm actually due to eat lunch before my next call, so you're killing me right now. Well, that's I'm excited for you then to come here to Houston, in a little bit for the video blueprint, because the
love
Tex-Mex food
some
here,
Tex-Mex.
yeah, I mean, you've been to Texas, so yeah, 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 yeah. Awesome. Well, Heather, I appreciate you and appreciate your time today. Question: if someone doesn't follow you on social, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
If they don't follow me on social, please do. You can add me on Facebook. My name Heather Haase, or you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at Dayton Real Estate Darling. But if you just want my phone number, you can call or text me at 567-429-8037.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time today. I'm excited to finally be able to meet you in person, which I didn't
I
realize
know.
we hadn't met in
So
person, but
I'm so excited to meet everybody. Like, I don't think anybody there I've met yet.
oh man. So birthday weekend plus a bunch of brand new friends. It's gonna be a
Oh
wild
my
time for
gosh,
you.
yes. Like, I know my friend Sam Swift will be there, and I know you
Okay.
know Sam as well, so I know she'll be there, so I at least know one person, but
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to see you. So
yeah,
again, thank you so much for your time today and looking forward to meeting you in person soon.
I'll see you soon. Talk soon.